This video is for entertainment purposes only. Do your own research.
From UFOs to weird things we know, it's time for the paranormal, strange, phenomenal show. Biometric wars, a prison planet run by the man. It's time for the Tinfoil Canadian. Take off your hose!
Hello, fellow foilers, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Tinfoil Canadian, the show that brings you the strangest and craziest TikToks and videos that I could find on the internet. Today's topic is Canadian cryptids, featuring two Canadian legendary monsters, the Ogopogo and the Wendigo. So let's hop on that old skidoo and take off to the Great White North.
Is there really a serpent-like underwater monster lurking in a British Columbia lake? My name is Eagle. I'm breaking down every item on the darkest Canadian iceberg, and the Naha'ika or Ogopogo is up next. If you've been to Kelowna, you've probably heard the word Ogopogo. The city and locals use it in branding. You see statues of it. Their junior hockey team even has the Ogopogo as its logo. Origins seem to date back to the local First Nations people in the area, calling it the Naha'ika. Rather than seeing Naha'ika as this big scary lake monster or some goofy friendly green serpent, they say that he's more of a caretaker. He takes care of the water. He's a sacred being. Europeans came throughout the 1800s, took this legend on for themselves, and in the 1920s, supposedly that's where the Ogopogo name came from. It had something to do with some sort of a song. And some people do have stories. There are these old photos as well. Even recently, this picture blew up in 2018. This photo was making the rounds just a few years ago. There are a ton of fun stories, but no real evidence. The leading theory is likely that it may be a giant sturgeon fish, which are found in Okanagan Lake. But it makes you wonder.
I live in the region next door in the Kootenays, and I have never seen an Ogopogo. Now that we all know what the Ogopogo is, let's dive in a bit deeper and hope he or she does not bite.
Huge weight, 30 feet long.
I've had about 3 or 4 sightings.
Just the head coming up and down. And we see this black kind of shadow. We're like, either that's a really big submarine or there's a big sturgeon or it's Ogie.
I grew up in Vernon, so my childhood was full of stories of the Ogopogo. So much so that I was always petrified of going swimming in Okanagan Lake.
When I said to that green chap, why carry that big thing and wrap the butterfly net and rusty gum? He replied, "Here, my son, I'm looking for the Ogopogo."
His father was an earwig, his mother was a whale, little bit of head and hardly any tail, and Ogopogo was his name. That's basically it. Yeah, right.
So we're standing above where you spotted Ogopogo.
Oh, I had a kayak and I had an underwater disposable camera and just aimed it straight down and clicked. I was a little bit afraid, but I thought, oh, they're just logs. Looks like a log, really good camouflage. Just stays still for days and months. But now that I know it's a creature, I wouldn't be brave enough to take the time to take the pictures.
When is a log not a log? When it's an Ogopogo. Log or not, the Ogopogo has become a mascot of the Okanagan.
This is the minimal collection over 40 years.
And these are your books that you wrote?
Yeah.
Cool. How many sightings do you think there have been in total over the years?
There have been hundreds of sightings, okay? I mean, they come in an average of 3 to 5 sightings or more annually.
Wow.
My research on Ogopogo goes back 40 years. I've got all the Ogopogo sightings and everything Ogopogo that was out there, I made certain that I had for my file.
The history of the Ogopogo goes back a lot further than 40 years, though. Jordan Coble of the West Bank First Nation hopped aboard my boat to tell me all about it.
Ogopogo is a word that was brought into our territory in the early 1920s by some folk singers that came in. So to me, it doesn't mean much. What means the most to me is in Haka-Ait. And Haka-Ait is the spirit of the water, the spirit of the lake. It's much more than just an Ogopogo. And Haka-Ait does incorporate the creature that's in the lake. I believe in the creature, but Haka-Ait is never something to be afraid of. It's been demonized. It's been turned into a monster by the settler society.
In the 1920s, fear of the Ogopogo had reached such a level that the local ferry advertised having a monster-repelling device.
It was just a means of making sure that the persons would use the ferry. They advertised, we've got an Ogopogo device that will protect you from Ogopogo. But as far as the device, it was never identified.
In the 1980s, there was a big push to find the Ogopogo.
One of the local tourist associations, they offered $1 million reward for anyone who could bring in proof of the existence of Ogopogo. That would mean going out and catching it.
By the late 80s, the hunt for the Ogopogo was getting out of control.
An American news crew was coming up. They had a submersible camera, and they were going to attempt to harpoon it. This caused some concern in the Okanagan, and I phoned the director of wildlife, and I said, how do you protect something that may or may not exist? Well, he drafted an amendment to the Endangered Species Act that says there is to be protected a vertebrate resident in Okanagan Lake over 3 meters in length, which is not a white sturgeon.
And so the news crew had to abandon their plans. The Ogopogo was safe once more.
Well, the great thing about it is because we don't have a body, there's still a mysterious mystique about it. If we had a body, all the mystique would be over.
Obviously, nothing's really come up with solid evidence or anything like that, or we wouldn't be here trying to do these mythical and creature stories. Makes you think a little bit. But we really want to create awareness that you're not supposed to be afraid of the spirit of the lake. You're supposed to respect it. You're supposed to give back to it.
After spending the afternoon with Jordan, my fear of the Ogopogo had all but evaporated. With his words in my ears, I went for a swim.
Yes, it's the spirit of the lake, but it also kind of represents sustainability. We're nothing without water. If we are just treated in a good way, then the spirit of the lake will thrive on and provide for future generations.
I am glad the Ogopogo is something not to be feared and is a spiritual ally to the water in my area. Have you ever seen an Ogopogo or a lake monster? Leave a comment below.
Ogopogo was first spotted in the lake more than 100 years ago, in 1872, by Mrs. John Allison. Since then, more than 1,000 sightings have been reported. A group of residents at a resort in Kelowna gave their impressions of the elusive Ogie.
Definitely a disturbance going down the lake. It looked like, at first, I thought they were large seabirds or something that were flowing, but they were going too fast. And it made a circular pattern around the lake and went back across the lake. And as it went across the lake, it was a great long object, whatever it was. It was undulating, whatever. There was no great arms sticking out or anything like that.
I wasn't afraid of it or anything, but I noticed everybody was swimming and on little boats, and they all came in and were standing on shore.
You're from Calgary, I understand.
Yeah.
You're not too concerned that when you talk about this when you go back to Calgary that somebody might say, was this spotted during the happy hour?
Yeah, I think they're going to.
Arlene Gall has been acting as Ogie's Boswell for the past 10 years. She has written a book about him. She says there's no doubt he exists because the number of people who claim to have seen him can't all be wrong.
I'm most certain that there's something out in that lake. They can call him Ogopogo or whatever they desire, but there is a large creature out there.
Ogopogo still hasn't attained the worldwide fame of the Loch Ness Monster. It may be because he's too bashful, a little on the timid side, and strictly non-violent. And the residents here hope he stays that way.
People telling stories of the legendary lake being is great, but is there any hard evidence for you and I to see?
When we came by it the first time, that's where I thought it was a log.
On their last sale of the season, Dale Hanchar, his wife Colleen, and their neighbor Myrna Germaine Brown saw something shocking beneath Okanagan Lake's surface.
Nice easy breeze, cruising out across the lake, and we saw something in the water. And as a boater, I was just looking, is this something dangerous that needs to be marked so somebody doesn't run into it? We went by it. It looked like a log down into the water, but didn't look quite right.
That's when they snapped a photo.
It wasn't until we got home, we got looking at it and zoomed in on it that we were like
puzzled.
The horns are if we can call them that,
so,
the nodules.
Yeah.
Oh, at least 3 feet.
And then it goes out from there.
And it would have been that big. And that's why I thought if it was Ogopogo sleeping, I don't want to be here.
Now, we've shown the photograph to our expert, and he was surprised by what he saw. However, he does have a theory of what it could be, if not the legendary lake monster Ogopogo.
I am not gonna lie, as soon as I opened up, I did have a moment of hesitation, like, whoa, this is not like something I've seen before, because you immediately see the horns. In a lot of classic depictions of lake monsters, people will note horns of some type. At first glance, it does appear to be monstrous looking. You're looking at some head.
The photo continues to keep the legend of the mysterious lake monster alive and well. Sydney Morton, Global News, Kelowna.
Well, it looks like a sculpture, but I heard the statue of the Ogopogo is under the water, not near the surface. That is one of the largest sturgeon I have ever seen. The record was 27 feet 7 inches. Is that what the Ogopogo sightings have been? I had no idea that there were centaurs in Canada. And I have never heard of an ugwug before either. Both are creatures you do not want to run into alone, along with this next one.
This video was uploaded to Reddit by Extra Dimension 276. The video was taken somewhere in eastern Canada. As he is wandering the forest, he heard this.
What the f*** is that? I heard some here.
Is this the sound of a known animal? Please let me know in the comments what you think it could be.
What the heck was that? My guess is that is the Wendigo, or an injured wolverine. What do you think that sound was?
This is one of the most terrifying urban legends I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. But in Canada, there was this legend that one night a bunch of people saw a bright blue light in the sky, and the next day an entire village of people disappeared. But it turns out that legend is rooted in something that really happened. This is coming from this week's episode. I have a whole series on urban legends that ended up being true, and it's a very scary listen. So in Canada in 1930, a fur trapper named Joe LaBelle was riding in the river in his canoe when he came to a village he had seen before. Except this time when he came upon it, it looked like everyone had left in a hurry. Food was still cooking and a bunch of dogs were barking and super hungry as if they had been left behind. But the strangest part of all of this was in the middle of the community, there was a grave that had been disturbed. And that reminded the fur trapper of a very scary story he had heard. The legend of the Torn Rack, which was this demon that supposedly stalked the area. So he starts looking for someone who might know what happened to these people. They were a nomadic people. It didn't make any sense that they would have left all of their stuff behind. And that's when he finds a man in a hospital who was potentially part of the village. The man is so freaked out. He won't say anything at first, but eventually Joe gets him to talk, and he recognizes one word that the man says. Torn Rack, the name of the evil deity that was potentially in the area. The police basically don't believe any of this, but they do acknowledge that before the disappearance, they did see blue lights in the sky that no one has been able to figure out what they were. I get more into the theories of what may have happened in this episode, and I also talk a little bit more about other urban legends that ended up being true.
The Torn Rack demon sounds like the most horrifying thing in the world. Have you guys heard of him before?
Unknown creatures might live in our sewers. In 1978, Ernest, a resident of Toronto, was searching a nearby cave tunnel for a lost cat after hearing strange animal noises coming from it. Meet the Cabbagetown Tunnel Monster. When he made it 10 feet inside, he said he saw a living nightmare he could never forget. Ernest's flashlight pierced the darkness and revealed a small humanoid creature with large teeth, red eyes, and slate gray fur. In that moment, the creature spoke to him in a hissing voice, telling him to go away before it took off further into the cave. Ernest only mentioned his story to a few trusted friends. However, the news caught wind of this, and he later took a crew to investigate the tunnel. They found no monster, but it was thought that this tunnel may have led into the main sewer system of Toronto. Sewer workers weren't surprised by his story and said they would never go down there alone because you never know what you may find.
That creature sounds like the cousin of the It Clown. Sewer workers of Toronto, beware.
Most famous monster myth in every country.
So I know a lot of people like to make jokes about the Wendigo and stuff, but do you actually know what the Wendigo is? A Wendigo is a very evil cannibalistic spirit that is said to possess someone whenever they eat human flesh in order to survive. You may have seen them depicted more like this with antlers, but actually the actual legend looks more like a horrible demon zombie looking thing. And this is a map of the areas where the stories of the Wendigo were told, which I am currently in one of those regions, so... But these creatures are truly terrifying, being said to be a humanoid that grows larger the more it eats, but it still maintains the frame of a person who has suffered many years of starvation. And they're said to be absolute apex predators and have amazing eyesight and hearing and be able to move with the speed of the wind. But what's really crazy is the stories of historical accounts of people experiencing what many say were Wendigo, like a European minister living with the tribe in the 1600s who wrote a letter back to his church saying that a local tribe close to him had a bunch of people eaten by the Wendigo. And the story of Jack Fiddler in the 1900s who's said to be a really powerful shaman that defeated 14 Wendigo in total, but a bunch of people, including the police, thought they were just regular people. And the strongest case for Wendigo psychosis in a man named Swift Runner who ate his entire family. It's crazy, I just did a longer video on my YouTube channel about it all. But the Wendigo is mainly located in Canada, and I'm trying to do a series on here where I cover the most famous monster myth in every country. So comment your country, and the top comment will choose the next video.
Well, we all know what the Wendigo is. What else can we find out about this famous Canadian cryptid? Here is an in-depth look at this monster.
Wendigo, or Wendigo, is this old Native American legend that was spoke of by the Algonquian people. Now, the description of this thing varies. Hollywood has made it look more like this very tall man with deer antlers, but the truth is that it looks more like a human corpse. And it's said this thing consumes human flesh. Now, the Native Americans described it as sort of this man who looked very sickly or like a corpse, that was very skinny, pale white skin, dark yellow jagged teeth, sharp yellow nails, sometimes red, sometimes blue eyes, and this very long blue tongue that it would use to sort of taste its victims. Now, there are different versions of a Wendigo. Some tribes believe that the Wendigo is just a man who has gone crazy and now consumes human flesh. In other tribes, they believe in it being this evil spirit that lives in the woods. And when a hunter or trapper would go out into the woods, this thing would devour him and then take the form of that person and then go back to his tribe and eat the entire tribe. In other legends, it's sometimes seen as this very tall entity that can move very fast through the woods, can climb trees, and also can shapeshift. But a lot of people believe this just goes back to in winter times when food was scarce, it would lead to cannibalism. Now, this is a story that I heard out of Wisconsin. There was this girl named Leah, and she said when she was a young girl that she used to stay at her grandmother's. And her grandmother's lived in this cabin out in the woods next to this lake. And she said late at night she would sit outside with her grandmother and they would hear the croaks of the frogs. And her grandmother would say, "There's an old story about the frogs croaking. You see, at one time there used to be this man and a woman, and they lived next to the lake. And every night they would hear the frogs croaking. And the woman, she would be enchanted and excited to hear this sound, but the man would be annoyed and say, 'Oh, I hate the sound of the frogs croaking. I wish they would stop.' And his wife would say, 'Don't you do anything to those frogs because they are protecting us from the Wendigo.' And it would be very unwise to do so. Well, the foolish man decided he one day was going to get rid of all the frogs in the lake. So through this meticulous process, he eliminated all of the frogs in the area. And after the frogs were gone, there was nothing to protect them from the Wendigo. So the Wendigo came one night and consumed both of them. So whenever you hear the frogs croaking, that means you are protected from the Wendigo. So Leah said she just thought, that was a story her grandma told her to entertain her. So later on in life, she said that she moved to this very rural area of Pennsylvania into a house that sort of reminded her of her grandmother's. It was, in the woods right next to a lake. And she was so excited at night to hear the croaking of the frogs, so she would leave her windows and her door open to kind of allow that sound to permeate through the house. So many months passed, and this one particular night, she is enjoying the sound of the frogs croaking from the lake. And she said all of a sudden, she just got this very bad feeling, like in the pit of her stomach. And she couldn't describe it, but she felt very anxious and kind of freaked out. And then she realized the sound of the frogs croaking had completely stopped. So she's like, what could have made them all go quiet? What is it causing that? And she said as she sat there and the house was just completely silent now, she hears from outside someone saying, "Leah, Leah." And she realizes, that's my grandmother's voice, but my grandmother's long gone. Once again, she hears, "Leah, come here, come outside, let's go play by the lake." And she's thinking, what is happening? So she said she went to the window and she's looking in the direction of where it sounds like the sound is coming from. And she said standing by the lake, she sees this man He's completely naked, and his skin is very tight on his bones, and his eyes are glowing red. And she can see him kind of crouched down, moving. And then she hears him say, Leah, Leah, in her grandma's voice, but she can tell it's this man. And he's sort of just standing there, close to the lake, kind of scurrying back and forth. And so she said she closed all of her windows and she closed all of her doors. And she said outside she could hear this thing banging on the windows, banging on the doors, trying to get into the house. So frantically she's panicking, like, what do I do? What do I do? So she grabs her phone, which is connected to a Bluetooth speaker, and she starts playing the sound of frogs croaking. And she said all of a sudden, after she started playing that, the energy changed and she felt like calm and comfortable and like she was protected. And she said the next day she went outside and she found all of these scratches on the side of the house, and like siding was kind of like ripped off, like something was trying to dig into the wall. And near the lake, all of the frogs were deceased. Something had like taken bites out of them. So she said every night to this day she plays the sounds of frogs to help her fall asleep.
That is all the time we have for today's episode, fellow foilers. See you next time as we explore strange and paranormal TikToks from around the world. Until then, stay warm and be nice to your neighbor.